On a freezing winter night, an 8-year-old boy stopped a powerful CEO. He wasn't asking for money, he was asking to save his baby sister. That single request changed everything. The city was silent under a heavy blanket of snow. It was past midnight, and the streets were empty except for the occasional gust of wind that swept through the narrow alleys. Most people were asleep in their warm beds, safe from the bitter cold outside. But not everyone had that comfort. The winter night was cruel to those who had nowhere to go, nothing to hold onto but hope. David Harrison stepped out of his office building, his breath visible in the freezing air. He was the CEO of one of the city's most successful tech companies. His life was filled with meetings, decisions, and numbers that moved millions. Tonight, he had stayed late to finish a deal that would expand his business into 3 new countries. He was exhausted, but satisfied. He pulled his expensive wool coat tighter around himself and walked toward his car parked across the street. That's when he heard it, a small, trembling voice cutting through the silence. "Sir, please, sir." David stopped. He turned around and saw a young boy no older than 8 standing a few feet away. The boy's clothes were thin and torn. His shoes had holes in them. In his arms, he held a tiny bundle wrapped in a dirty blanket. The boy's eyes were red, his lips pale from the cold. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. David's first instinct was to keep walking. He had seen people on the streets before. He had donated to charities. He told himself he had done his part, but something about this boy made him pause. Maybe it was the way the child looked at him, not with anger or entitlement, but with quiet desperation. "What do you want?" David asked, his voice softer than he intended. The boy stepped closer, his small body shaking. "Sir, my baby sister, she's freezing. I don't know what to do. Please." "Do you have anything warm?" David looked down at the bundle in the boy's arms. A tiny face peeked out from the blanket. It was a baby girl no more than a year old. Her skin was pale, her breathing shallow. She wasn't crying. That scared David more than anything. Babies were supposed to cry. Silence meant something was very wrong. Without thinking, David took off his coat and wrapped it around the boy and his sister. "Where are your parents?" he asked. The boy's eyes filled with tears. "Our dad, he left a long time ago. And Mom. She went out this morning and didn't come back. I waited all day. I tried to keep my sister warm, but it's so cold, sir. I don't know where Mom is." David felt something tighten in his chest. He looked at the boy, then at the baby. He thought about his own daughter safe at home with her mother. He thought about the warm bed waiting for him, and then he made a decision he didn't fully understand. "Take me to your home," he said. The boy looked up at him, surprised. You want to come with us?" David nodded. "Yes, let's go." They walked through the dark streets together. The boy led him down narrow alleys and broken sidewalks. They passed buildings with shattered windows and streets that smelled of garbage and hopelessness. David had never been to this part of the city. He had driven past it many times, but he had never stopped. He had never looked closely. Now he was walking right through it, and it felt like stepping into a different world. Finally, they reached a small apartment building. The boy climbed the stairs slowly, his little sister still in his arms. David followed. They stopped in front of a door on the 3rd floor. The boy pushed it open. Inside, the apartment was dark and freezing. There was no heat, no lights, just a small mattress on the floor, a broken chair, and a table with nothing on it. The walls were stained, and the air smelled damp and cold. This was where they lived. This was home. David stood in the doorway, unable to move. He had seen poverty in documentaries, in news reports. But standing here in this freezing room, holding his expensive watch on his wrist, he felt ashamed. The boy laid his sister down on the mattress and covered her with the coat David had given him. "I'm sorry it's not nice, sir," the boy said quietly. "Mom tries her best. She works every day. But sometimes there's not enough." David knelt down beside the boy. "What's your name?" he asked. "Ethan," the boy whispered. "And this is Lily." David looked at the baby girl, still silent, still pale. Ethan, where does your mom work? Ethan hesitated. Then in a voice so small David almost didn't hear it, he said, she cleans offices at night, but last week she got sick. She kept going to work anyway because we needed the money. Yesterday she collapsed. Someone called an ambulance. I don't know which hospital they took her to. I've been alone with Lily since then. David's heart broke. This boy had been taking care of his baby sister alone for an entire day and night. No food, no warmth, no help, and he hadn't complained. He had only asked for something warm. David stood up and pulled out his phone. He made 3 calls. The first was to a hospital. The second was to his assistant. The third was to his driver. Within 30 minutes, an ambulance arrived. Paramedics checked Lily and took her to the hospital for treatment. David arranged for Ethan to go with them. He also sent his assistant to search every hospital in the city until they found the boy's mother. 2 hours later, David sat in a hospital waiting room. Ethan was next to him, wrapped in a blanket, finally warm. A doctor came out and told them Lily would be okay. She was dehydrated and cold, but she would recover. Ethan cried for the first time that night, not from sadness, but from relief. Then David's assistant walked in. "We found her, sir. She's here. 3rd floor. She's awake." Ethan jumped up, and David followed him upstairs. In a small hospital room, a thin woman with tired eyes lay in a bed. When she saw Ethan, she reached out her arms, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, my boy, I'm so sorry." Ethan ran to her and hugged her tightly. "It's okay, Mom. We're okay now." David stood at the door watching them. The woman looked up at him, confused. Who are you?" David stepped forward. "I'm someone who should have paid attention a long time ago," he said. "Your son saved his sister's life tonight, and he reminded me what really matters." Over the next few days, David did something he had never done before. He didn't just write a check. He got involved. He paid for the mother's medical treatment. He found them a safe, warm apartment. He helped her get a stable job with better hours and better pay. And he started a program in his company to hire single parents and offer them support, childcare, and hope. Months later, David visited Ethan and his family in their new home. Lily was running around, healthy and laughing. Ethan was back in school. Their mother was smiling again. "You changed our lives, sir," she said. David shook his head. "No, your son changed mine." That winter night in the freezing cold, a boy asked for help, and a man who had everything realized he had been living with nothing. Because kindness is not about what you have. It's about what you're willing to give. And sometimes, the smallest act of compassion can change everything. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because we all have the power to make a difference. We just have to choose to see.